Classics. So we're really fortunate and excited to have Kendra Jones from Washington and Jefferson with us, and also John Schaefer from Mansfield University. And this is specific to girls soccer. So we have a boys soccer night that's next Friday with boys coaches. This will be specific to the girls side of thing and girls coaches. So I'm going to give just Kendra a quick chance to kind of just do a little brief intro on herself, and then I'll switch over to John. And then the format will be, I have some questions that have been submitted to us through the Google form that I sent out. And from there, then we'll go through those questions. And then if we have any time remaining, people can certainly raise their hands. This is kind of like, if you have questions, you can type in the chat, you can raise your hand, you can get called on. We'll do the best we can, obviously, given the Microsoft Teams virtual meeting. So Kendra, if you want to go ahead and just kind of introduce yourself, talk about your school, and then we'll switch to John.
Sure. Thanks, first of all, for everybody jumping on. It's great to see so many people on here. Hopefully this helps you guys understand and navigate the recruiting process. It's certainly a crazy one, especially in these times right now. So certainly feel free to ask any questions you guys have, and feel free to reach out afterwards if there's additional questions. So again, I'm Kendra Jones. I'm the head women's soccer coach here at Washington and Jefferson College. We are a Division III school located about 30 miles or 30 minutes or so from Pittsburgh. So we're on the western side of the state. We're a smaller school with about 1,400 students, a liberal arts college that is really well known for its sciences. We have lots of students that come to us for pre-professional programs going into physical therapy, physician assistant, medical school, and things like that. We also have several other strong business programs, pre-law, things like that. But we're a well-rounded in terms of our opportunities as a liberal arts college. We have some really successful athletic programs, some fantastic facilities out our way. And it's a really good combination in terms of location being near the city, but outside of it in terms of that hustle and bustle and having plenty of things to do around campus. I am in my second full year here as the head coach. I was previously the assistant coach for about 18 months before that. And I'm excited to see where this program can continue going.
Thank you for that intro. All right, John, do you want to go ahead and talk about who you are, what school you represent, and it's yours, the mic's yours.
Yeah, thanks again for everyone jumping on tonight. Coach Jones, you got me fired up. That's a good talk. Nice to meet Coach Jones. Mansfield University of Pennsylvania is a state school. We are located about 2 hours north of Harrisburg. About 2 hours, 45 minutes from Classics Park. I'm there a lot for recruiting and stuff, so I can pretty much drive there. My car can make it there on its own. We're a state school. We have a well-rounded education in terms of some liberal arts education, pre-professional stuff as well, education, criminal justice, psych, business are some of our strongest majors. We're about 1,700 students, 1,800 students, enrollment's going up. So we are the smallest of the state schools, but that's okay. Small campus. 17-to-1 student to teacher ratio in your major, and so that's the smallest in the state schools also. When I say state schools, before I get too into it, I'm talking Bloomsburg, Millersville, Ship, Kutztown, Westchester, some of my competitors that are down your way. I am in my third year at Mansfield, my second as the full-time coach. I was the interim coach my first year while still teaching high school locally. So like Coach Jones, taking over a program, trying to change the culture and trying to move the culture forward. So that's a little bit about Mansfield and a little bit about myself.
Great, thank you for that. And that kind of leads us into our first question that we had. And this is from a parent, and this is, I believe, more targeted soccer specific. And they asked what the difference is between a Division II soccer program and as opposed to a Division III soccer program. So maybe if you could each kind of summarize what the D3 soccer program is for you, Kendra, and then John, with you, what maybe separates a Division II program in terms of timeframes and recruiting timelines and et cetera. So go ahead, Kendra, if you want to lead us.
Yeah, for sure. I think the biggest difference is certainly going to be the scholarship factor. So at Division III, we do not have athletic scholarships. At W&J, we do have very strong academic scholarships, where 99% of the students are receiving an academic scholarship, but there is no money that we can give towards athletics. So that is, I'd say, one of the biggest differences is not even the soccer side of things. It's just pure scholarship opportunity. That being said, from a time commitment standpoint, I would say we're fairly similar. We do have a little bit more in the way of restrictions in our off season. So in the spring for us, we do have a shorter period that we get to work with the student athletes. We only get 5 weeks to complete 16 sessions. That for us usually entails 15 practices and then a play date against a local opponent. We do play sometimes a Division II program out this way or other Division III schools. But we do have a bit more of a limitation in terms of what we can do in the off season with our players. We do a lot more strength and conditioning and things, but it's all voluntary based. And then, like I said, we have those 5 weeks that we get to really hit the ground running with the soccer side of things. That, I mean, is really the main difference. Again, from a soccer perspective, we do film, we do strength and conditioning. That stuff, like I said, you'll see across the board in Division I, Division II, and Division III. Once again, it might be a little bit less than you see at the other levels, just because for Division III, it's really that balance of that student athlete. Our kids are here for a good education and there to compete at a high athletic level, but academics is certainly the first thing. And so we do, like I said, have less in the way of time commitments from some of those extra things like film and strength and conditionings.
Yeah, spot on. This question hits close to home for me because I didn't play collegiately, because I didn't have somebody mentoring me. I had a ton of D3 offers, but and again, I'm super transparent. I thought I was better than D3. I thought I was a D2 player. I didn't have anyone mentoring me, and what's out there is do not pay attention to the level. As Coach Jones is saying, you're gonna find quality coaching, quality facilities at all 3 levels, and you're gonna find poor coaching and less than quality facilities and less than quality environments culturally at all 3 levels. And so please don't make the mistake I did. Look at every level. D2, D3, don't the labels get to me. And I say that as a coach who loses recruits to D3s. And I congratulate him and wish him the best of luck because it's all about the right fit. So just want to throw that out there as somebody who made the mistake of turning down D3s, not realizing what's there. Coach Jones nailed a lot of it. Biggest difference is in terms of CARA, that's countable athletic related activities. That's AKA mandatory stuff. Again, we're allowed 8 hours a week of mandatory stuff in our off season. So that's late November, December, once our fall season ends. And then as soon as they're back on campus, January, we're allowed 8 hours a week of mandatory stuff that I can lead and be at. So that's 4 hours a week we do with a ball. And then 4 hours a week they're with Coach Gustin, our strength and conditioning coach. Now, as Coach Jones said, and I know from my and I don't want to put words in her mouth, but I know from my D3 coaching friends, they have a lot of captain's practices and strength and conditioning stuff, and they're doing just as much as we're doing. And so, I mean, look at any of the leading D3 schools, players that go there, they're doing a lot, So, again, don't think you're not going to get full year stuff with D3, but we're allowed to make it mandatory and we count it. And then our spring season, we're allowed 39 sessions, 45-day window to get in 39 sessions. So we're practicing 4 to 5 days a week in our spring season, and then we have 5 play days in which Sometimes we play local clubs. We try to get together with some D3 and D2 schools locally as well, to play, plus an alumni game and different things. So we have a bigger spring season. But again, at the D2 level, to echo Coach Jones, for me, it's about I want young women to leave with either grad school lined up or a job. So it's about the balance, and it's about academics first, soccer second. And so even though we're allowed 39 sessions, academics takes a forefront there. And then scholarship wise, to the parents and the young ladies watching, ask the tough questions, because even though I can give scholarship money, Coach Jones Coach Jones's school probably gives out more than Mansfield does, being a private liberal arts school compared to a public school like Mansfield. Yes, I have money to give out, but it's limited. And yes, Mansfield gives out academic money, but our cost of tuition is different also. So you really have to put it all out there and do the math and find the right fit. I'm going to say that a million times tonight. Find the right fit. Just because a school can give you athletic money doesn't mean it's the right fit. Just because a school can't give you athletic money doesn't mean it's the right fit. So put it all into the pot: the athletic money, the academic money, the cost of tuition, and figure out what's the right fit. So for me, that's the main difference. There's not really a difference, but countable hours is really the only difference on paper.
Great. I think both of you nailed it on the head with that one. So thanks for that. It kind of leads into, and I know both of you kind of touched on it, but a parent asked what level, like how does the parent know what level their daughter can play at? And also similarly, what level for players, how do they know what level they can play at? And John, if you want to lead, because you kind of touched on this a little bit, I think. And then why don't you take the lead on this one, and then Kendra, if you want to hop in and fill in any of the gaps. So,
man, again to echo what I said, it's about finding the right fit. I lost a recruit to Messiah. D3 national champions. Perennial powerhouses. This young woman could have played any level. She could have played D1 if she wanted it. She definitely could have played at Mansfield or any of the PSAC schools. But she wanted Messiah for a bunch of different reasons. And so it's about finding the right fit. So, and this kind of goes to a question later that I know, but ID clinics, part of it is either going and watching the school you want to go to, watching them play, watching any D2 school. Coach Jones, pardon me, I forget your conference you're in, but watch PSAC games for me. Watch Coach Jones's conference if you can't watch her team play specifically, and say, can I play there? Go to ID clinics if you can, but investigate the ID clinics. Are you going to get a chance to play with the college players at the ID clinic? Or at least get a sense of can you play at that level? So that's one of the questions. Investigate the style of play, the athletic level of the schools you're interested in, because you can't just ballpark, yes, I'm a D2 player, yes, I'm a D3 player. That drives me crazy when I see evaluation forms and a player's ticked as a D2 player. Well, she maybe at some schools, but she might also be a D1 player. She might be a D3 player, depending on the quality of that program. If you're paying attention to the spring season in D1 college, NIAI schools, D2 and some D3 schools that are playing this spring, Mansfield isn't, but are beating D1 schools in exhibition matches. And so it's about find the school that's the academic fit for you, that you can financially afford, and then investigate, can you play at that school based on the players they have, or in my case, the players I'm recruiting to change the culture and change the team. The players that I'm recruiting are better than most of the players I have, because I'm taking over a not successful program, and so that's a big part of it as well.
Yeah, I think he's definitely right there on that of it has to be the right fit. I stress to kids, we see it a little bit less at the Division III level, but make sure that it's the right fit academically. at the Division I level, it's certainly a different experience in terms of certain areas you can study successfully and certain areas that it's really hard to balance the two. I went to a college that we had a nursing program, and I had teammates that were in nursing, and they got to their junior and senior year and they struggled to manage the two schedules of the practicum requirements and an athletic schedule. At the Division III level at W&J, for example, I've got kids that are pre-med on my team. I've got kids that are, in 2 or 3 science classes at once and taking very strenuous course loads, and it's fine. We work around it, and it's that balance. So some of it really falls on what you want from an academic standpoint. If you're in one of those areas like nursing, athletic training, some of those sciences that require a lot more practical experience, the higher the level, the little harder it is to manage all of the athletic time commitments. Another big part of it too is the athletic experience you want as well. Some people are happy to go to that big shot Division I program and sit the bench. They just want to be playing and practicing and playing the best teams. You want to go to a team in the ACC and play the UNC, but you might not be on the field for a lot of that. And that's what certain people want, and that's fine. And then other people say, nope, I want to be at a school that I'm playing. I want to play 90 minutes. I want to play every week. And so that, again, changes maybe what type of level you're looking for. And so that is just, again, that's a conversation maybe with your parents or really just kind of sitting and reflecting on your own about what do you want that experience to be. Obviously, no coach should be promising you playing time one way or the other, but, going in and saying, I think you could be a contributor, on the field for us, that's a different experience than saying, I see you as 27 out of 28, and you might not find yourself, really on the field that much. And like I said, it's really a personal preference as to what that experience looks like for you. But again, the division level, as Coach Schaefer said, there's plenty of very, very good Division III programs that beat the lower end Division I programs or the mid-level Division I programs. So again, it's really finding that balance of the athletic experience and the academic experience that you want.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. So let's move into, now we kind of have an overview. Let's talk about specifically with the recruiting process. Let's talk about a couple key points. The first point is a highlight film. So highlight films, are they beneficial to you to see highlight films? What is it then you look for in a highlight film, or do you not really value highlight films? And Kendra, maybe you can start us off with this one.
Sure. Right now, highlight films are super helpful. It's crazy right now in terms of getting to events and the restrictions that have been in place. Thankfully, we're starting to see some of those ease up a bit. But for example, we are in a regular season right now, so we are obviously not normally playing games in the spring, but we are playing a full conference schedule right now. So I've got my assistants out recruiting, and I'm running practices and things. So it is challenging for us to get to all the recruiting events we would typically go to, this spring specifically. So highlight film, is helping us kind of bridge that gap. It also, certainly helps us if we maybe can't get to certain parts of the country, so if you're looking at a school that maybe isn't right in the immediate area in Pennsylvania or surrounding states, it might be helpful for them to just get an initial idea of what kind of player you are. But I know for me, I really want to see players in person. It just allows us to see more of kind of the full picture. I get to see the decision making in live time. I get to see, maybe you're not the one that's on the ball, but what are you doing off the ball? And sometimes that's hard to see in highlight videos. So I like to use them as a supplement to an in-person evaluation, but there are certainly circumstances that's hard to do. But I think from kind of an overall guideline of maybe what to look for or include in a highlight film is certainly do things, include things that you're doing well, but, I'm okay with there being, a great movement off the ball to create a scoring opportunity, and maybe you don't execute that final shot, and it doesn't end up in the back of the net. But if I see the right movement or I see good decision making, I'm okay with the fact that you didn't. Nobody's hitting every single shot in the back of the net, but seeing that broader picture. So if you have some of the technology now that's filming from up in the air, that you can see a little more of the field, include maybe that movement that you had prior to receiving the ball, or that movement off the ball that your teammate, maybe didn't find you, but you were making a good run, things like that help us again see that decision making that helps us evaluate more than just your simple, can you pass and receive it? Can you hit the target on a shot, things like that we're looking at. But what's your decision making?
Yeah, great. Yeah, well done, Coach Jones. For me, clearly, highlight tapes, yes. Start with your best clips. Don't try to, don't end with the best. If you have a 4-minute highlight video or a 3-minute highlight video and you save your banger for the last clip, not every coach is going to get that far. So start with your best clip, and if the next 3 minutes aren't as great as the first 30 seconds, that's okay. The first 30 seconds, we know what your best clip is. So that's one thing. 2, no slow-mo. Like, I know it might look cool, but you running in slow-mo or you taking a shot in slow-mo doesn't tell me what it really looks like in real life. And also, don't speed it up. Like, we can tell if that 1v1 dribble, you put the video at 1.5 speed. And your legs are moving super fast. Like, we can tell that that's not, yes, it might look cool, but don't do that. So that's just some of the things. For me personally, if I see a highlight tape I like, a clip I like, the first thing I do is email back, text back, and I ask for full game film. I might not watch the full match film, but like Coach Jones is saying, if I can't get to see you in person, can I watch a 15-minute, 20-minute chunk of your match and just watch how you're doing? You get subbed off. What does it look like when you get subbed off? I know Classic uses VO. I have a freshman next year coming in from Classics on the DA team, right? I've gotten her full matches using VO, and it's awesome. It's up in the air. I can see the whole thing, and I'm able to just watch 20 minutes of the first half, 20 minutes of the second half, just to evaluate that off the ball movement, everything that Coach Jones was saying, that if you don't show it in a highlight video, ask your coaches if you can get the full match film, or give college coaches access to the full match film so that we can watch that as much as we can. And last thing, if you do a highlight tape, highlight yourself. I get so many highlight videos where, like if any of you use Huddle with your high schools, Huddle, it's really easy. You can click, you can put a circle around it. I do it with my college girls when we're using Huddle and I'm trying to do a coaching point. I put the circle that spins and lights up. Let me know who you are. Let me know who you are, because I get so many highlight films where I don't know who to watch.
Definitely second that as well. Yeah.
Great point. Yeah, great point with that. So the next step then, obviously kind of building off that. So you get a highlight film or somebody reaches out. Let's talk about college showcases, because all the girls and the parents here, they're familiar with going to college showcases and tournaments. What is the procedure, or what do you like to see in terms of a player contacting you? How far in advance should they do it? What should they be telling you? And what is it that you're looking for in an email?
Yeah, I'll jump in. I'll start this one. So short and sweet and professional in the email. I mean, I think that's the professionalism is should be pretty honest or pretty basic. But I'm looking for as early as possible. Most tournaments they publish the schedules 2 to 3 weeks out. Can you let me know as soon as possible? Put it on my radar. If I'm going to Penn Fusion here at the end of the month, now that's a Wednesday, so the week before I'm probably planning my schedule Thursday. I'm probably sitting down and printing off all the games. I'm planning out what fields I'm going to be at. If I get an email Tuesday night, Monday night, hey coach, I'm at Penn Fusion, can you come see me? I'm scrambling. I'm trying to add it in. I'm trying to find it. So send it to me early. I like to plan. Most coaches like to plan. So send it early. I want to know your name, your uniform colors, your uniform name, number, color, maybe position if you know it. Most, at classics level, most of you have set positions or general areas. And then I want to know the field you're playing on and the times you're playing. So that's pretty, if you can shoot that out in a pretty basic email, simple chart, simple bullet points, whatever, but name, number, uniform colors, and then position, and then field locations and times. And then we're good to go.
And would you want to see like their grad year as well? Like, hey, I'm a 2022 grad or I'm a 2021 grad. Do you think that's important to have in that email?
Oh yeah, sorry, I wasn't even thinking that, but I mean, if it's an introduction, if I don't already know you, then I need grad year, club coach's name, high school coach's name if need be, and then intended major. Grad year and major are huge if I don't know you, because if you're interested in engineering, then I'm probably pointing you towards Coach Jones or someplace else, because Mansfield doesn't have engineering.
I definitely agree. I think the more information you can give us, especially in the introductory stuff, is the better. It's really frustrating for us when, we get information. I mean, we get it all the time where somebody sends an email and they give us the fields, the times and everything, and then they don't tell us the number. And especially in this day and age, not everybody's handing out pamphlets right now with COVID and things. And so if I don't know a jersey number, once again, I don't know who I'm looking for. I do agree, kind of in that 2-week, pre-event range is kind of where we like to see our emails. Again, we are also a college staff here that loves to plan. As we said, we do have to map out our time and especially events that are spread out in multiple locations. So we do map out what facilities we're at and when and who we're watching. And so if you give us that information early in the process, we can plan that into our schedule. And then certainly I think too, this has been a little bit more frequent with COVID times right now, but if there are schedule changes, send us an update. As annoying as it is, there are some tournaments that don't really update the college coaches of schedule changes. They'll say a schedule has been changed, but they don't really give us, an idea of what has changed. And so, I've got kids that will send me an email and it says, hey, just want to let you know I'm now playing at, noon instead of 9 a.m. at field X. So that's another super helpful thing, again, that encourages and makes our jobs easier to get out and see you play with any last minute changes. But yeah, definitely make sure you're including your club team colors, especially if the colors change. If you're going to play blue on Saturday and white on Sunday, let us know. Sometimes you don't always know that, but then at least give us what colors you could be in. And then as Coach Schaefer said, your position is helpful, grad year, contact information for your club coaches. But again, the more information, the better.
Yeah, if I can just jump in real quick. The more specific information about the tournament, but don't lose the important stuff with, hey, I'm really active in student council and I've wanted to play college soccer since I was, 5 and all of that stuff. Like, that's great stuff for us to talk about on a phone call or a Zoom or something else. If you're inviting us to a tournament to see you play, tell us all about your soccer stuff. But don't lose us. So just a caveat of some of the things I've seen in my few years.
Great info. So the one question that I think is a good one is, so they go to the tournament, they send an email to you, they say, hey, I'm playing, at these times. What happens then, right? So do they need to send a follow-up email? Do you contact them? Kind of and there might be different answers here, I think, depending on the coach or school. But Kendra, if you want to start, and then John, we'll flip to you.
Yeah, so we really try to respond to the people that reach out to us prior to an event, just acknowledging, hey, thanks for sending us your schedule. Sometimes there are ones where, despite our best efforts, we know we can't get to a certain facility. We'll let you know. And then that might be a case of, please send us any game film if you have access or things like that. But that's not too often that we're in that circumstance. But it's, like I said, acknowledging that we'll be looking to try and see you play. And then, I think it it is important to, that changes for me a little bit based on if you are a first time contact versus maybe someone we have seen. Because if I just maybe had a phone call with you, 3 or 4 days ago and you mentioned you're going to this upcoming event, then it may not be needed that we have to correspond again because we've already acknowledged, hey, yep, we'll be at that event. I'll be sure to watch you play. But generally, like I said, we do like to acknowledge that so that, we've seen it and that we're coming. In terms of following up, not necessarily. I think more of it happens after the events for sure.
Yeah. So just like Coach Jones, if you email me with a week or more before the tournament, I will respond. Right now I'm on my own. I don't have an assistant coach. And so it's all on me, but that's okay. If you email me a week or before, I will write you back and acknowledge it. Thank you for the email. Look forward to seeing you. I'm going to try to see you. Just one thing about the difference between D2 and D3 that just popped into my head: communication rules. Because of I see that head shake, Coach Jones. Because of D2 at the D2 and D1 level, because we do give athletic scholarships, we're not allowed to communicate with you outside of like an acknowledgement email until June 15th going into your junior year. So if there's any 2023s or 2024s on the Microsoft meetings tonight, you email me and I can write back, hey, Sally, thanks for the email. Great to hear from you. And then the rest of my email is explaining the NCAA rules. Coach Jones and other D3s are allowed to talk with you, openly communicate with you. And so that's one big difference. And so, so you email me, a 2023 emails me. I email her back and say, thanks for the info. Look forward to watching you play. I can't talk to you, blah, 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 blah. For all recruits, bug me, bug all college coaches. You're at least not going to annoy me. If you send me an email and then send me an email a week later and say, hey, coach, did you get my last one? Like, we're all busy. Poor Coach Jones is having a season in the middle of this in recruiting season. And so bug me. And if you're a 2023 or 2024, I can write you back and say, I got your email. Appreciate it. I did see you play, but we can't talk until June 15th going into your junior year. So look forward to a phone call or be ready for a phone call, whatever, June 15th or something like that. So that's probably the biggest difference there, D2, D3. But for all recruits, bug me. And if you're eligible to be communicated with, I'll write back or call you and say, I got to see you play. Here's what I thought, or I didn't get to see you play. And as Coach Jones said, if you have full game film, shoot it my way or let me know your next tournament.
Great. Thanks for that. So I think the third major thing that I saw recruiting wise specifically is our ID clinics. So ID clinics are kind of the new thing. And I think they are, we have the ones that are specific to schools. We have the ones that are, hey, we have the top 50 schools coming to this ID clinic. So kind of what is your take on that ID clinic?
I can start that one. I will say at W&J, having taken over the program, we are kind of new into the ID clinics ourselves specifically. I unfortunately picked a really bad time to start ours. We had one in February and then everything shut down. So we're gearing up to hopefully offer another one, once we finish up our spring. But I think they're super helpful. I think it's a better version than going to these week-long camps that everybody used to go to, from a cost standpoint, certainly. And I think it gives you a kind of with all of our time constraints that everybody has, it gives you a shortened version of that experience. I think they're super important, especially to go to ones that you'll interact with coaches. So if a coach is going to one of those big ones that 50 coaches are going to, and it's a bunch of random players, that they take 200 people and you all play. Then make sure that you look and see, okay, I know I'm interested in these 4 coaches and they're going to be there. If it's just a single school, then it's obviously a little bit easier. But I think it's a really good opportunity for you to start getting to know the coaches. That's a super important part of the recruiting process. We're all getting to know you guys as recruits in terms of how are you off the field? How are you on the field? What are your interests outside of soccer? But you guys don't have necessarily a lot of opportunity to get to know us, because you do get to spend a lot of your time with us, whether you like it or not. You do spend a lot of time with us. So it's important that you like how we communicate, how we treat you. It is, for me, it's a family environment. So, do you want to be a part of my family? And so ID clinics give you a really good opportunity to get to know me and my coaching style. And then again, if it is at the specific school, we often involve our players. So you get to see some of the current players that you might play with. We also try to include some admissions things. So that'll include like a tour of campus. If you're there and you're from maybe not in the immediate area, you get to see some of the surrounding area around campus. And so it just gives you kind of that snippet feel of what life at W&J would be like without maybe having to do the full-blown official visit, but at least giving an idea so that you can start to kind of put all that in the back of your mind as you experience different colleges and say, okay, I liked that, I didn't like that, I liked he or she's coaching style, I don't know whether I'd like that style. It just starts to get all that information so that when you do start to really explore schools, you kind of know what you have seen that you liked and what you didn't like.
Yeah, so much spot on from Coach Jones. Investigate what the clinic offers. If the advertisement is vague, ask the coach, because as a high school boys coach for 8 years and helping my boys go through the process, and watching club players on the club side go through it as well for my club, there's ID clinics out there that are just money makers, plain and simple, just money makers. Now I'm not going to lie and say that we don't make money off our ID clinic, but we try to keep the cost at a reasonable cost, for what we offer. Make a little money, but our ID clinics at Mansfield are meant to recruit. I'm looking for talent. We cap the numbers at our ID clinic. We cap the numbers so that whatever young women are there, we can truly evaluate. So investigate the ID clinic. Because I'm going to be honest, there's some bad ones out there at all level that you're going to pay money for and feel really, really let down after the fact. Investigate, do you train or do you just play? As Coach Jones said, for me, our ID clinics, we just got approved to have one April 17th. But my ID clinics are snapshots into a day in the life. We're going to train for an hour and a half. You're going to find out, do you like a Coach Schaefer training session? I'm high energy, X, Y, and Z. Do you like that? And then you're going to play and evaluate that. I think it's so vital that you experience a training session with the coach, and don't just go and play and the coach takes notes and whatever. So I just would encourage that so much. Do you get to see the current players? Do you get to talk with the current players? Do you get to play against the current players or play with them, or at least see them? Again, going back to a previous question of evaluating the level. The time and then the cost, put that all into, is it worth it? Is it the right fit? And just to piggyback off of what Coach Jones said about the time at the clinic, do you get to spend time with the coach? Also investigate visits, and this might be a further question, but before the visit starts, ask for an itinerary. Ask for, who are you going to be spending time with? I'm buzzing because I had a great recruit visit today. 5 hours of my day was spent with the recruit. I take the recruit on the tour. I eat lunch with the recruit. It's not a 15-minute, hey, how are you? And then I'll see you at the end of the tour. Like, for me, that's a big part of it. And I think it's the same thing with ID clinics. What are you going to get for the cost of it?
Great. All right. One of the last questions I have here, and then I think we'll open it up and see if anybody has any. But what is the recruiting timeline? So where are you at with your current 2021 class? Are you finished with that? Where are you at with your 2022s? Are you offering players? Are you still taking? And do you have deadlines for your program? Obviously, certain schools have early decision. Is that a factor at either one of your schools? So just kind of speak maybe with your program specifically, your recruiting timeline.
Yeah, so at Mansfield, my 2021 class is done. I have 10 young women coming in, and so we're done with the 2021 class. 2022 class, COVID has thrown a wrench into it, and so I'm taking it slow. I'm only looking to recruit 4 to 5 young women in my 2022 class, and so I'm not in a rush. But also a lot of young women haven't been able to play. I haven't been able to see them play in person. And for all the film and all the live film I've watched, I really want to see you in person. And so I'm slow playing it. A lot of the recruits I talked to for any 2022s that are on here are taking it slow as well. I don't put deadlines on. I don't like to pressure young women, but I did have the experience this year is I was recruiting a forward, and I had 4 2021s who I was recruiting for the forward position. None of them were ready to commit yet. And so I sent an email out September 1, and I just said, I respect each of your, I sent it individually, but I said, I respect you're taking your time. I don't want to rush you, but I do want to let you know there's someone else I'm looking at for the position. And the first person to accept the offer will get the roster spot. And so I'm super transparent and upfront about it, but I will never put a hard deadline and say, if you don't say yes by this date, I'm moving on. I may say by this date, I'm going to have to look for someone else. If you're not ready, that's fine. But for the sake of me and my program, I need to look for someone else. And that's what happened with the forwards. Yeah, I think that answers the question.
Yeah, I would agree. Just to piggyback off that last statement, I also don't like to put deadlines. Division III, I would say, has a longer time frame. We really, because academics and the financials and things like that are a little more involved with all being academic scholarship money, we tend to have a longer process. So I still have kids that are, getting financial scholarship information now for the 21 class and things like that. So for me, it's really about being patient. And I would hate to lose a player that is ultimately interested, but just needs a little more time. And so I, like I said, don't like to put deadlines. I do, however, do the same thing as Coach Schaefer said of, if I'm looking for one goalkeeper and I've got 3 or 4 people and nobody's really making a move, I will say, hey, whoever is ready to take that spot when you're ready, let me know, but I am only taking one, so that again, I'm making that statement to players that I'm not just going to bring in 4 goalkeepers to bring in 4 goalkeepers and fill my roster if I'm only looking for one. For us, we are almost complete with our 2021 class. I am recruiting a fairly large class in 2021 from making up for some small roster numbers, with the coaching change recently. So we are looking at some players. I do still have some people that are, like I said, making visits with COVID and then travel restrictions and things. We are very much in the middle of recruiting 2022s as well. I've had 2022s visiting campus. I've had phone calls with 2022s. For us, again, with financials being such a large part of it with the academic scholarship money, we don't tend to see too many people making decisions until kind of the summer for that going into their senior year. I do have a process where I can get, some estimates as to what your scholarship amount would be once you've had a junior year transcripts complete. And that allows us to kind of jump the gun a little bit on the timeline. But a lot of people, looking at our school are looking to get, that application in, get a hard number in terms of what that financial aid is going to be from a scholarship standpoint before they're comfortable making a decision. Which again is perfectly fine. It's a huge investment. I want to make sure that you are comfortable from a cost standpoint. I want to make sure that you've had the opportunity to explore different types of schools, and as we've both been saying, that it's the right fit. I was somebody that transferred, and that happens, and that's, you know, certainly an option, but it really, for me, is about you trying to find the right fit the first time. You know, it's just a whole nother process if you've got to transfer from athletics, academics, all of it is impacted. And so I think it's really important to take your time and really try and find the right fit the first time around. And if a coach is going to put a hard deadline on you, it may not be the right fit. Like you may need to just walk away from that opportunity. If you're not 100% sure, don't fall into the trap of, well, I've only got a week to decide. You're the one in control there. So if you're not comfortable making that decision, then, you know, let them know that professionally and keep your options open. I do believe that there is a right fit for everybody, you know, at some level. And sometimes you just have to be patient for that door to open.
Great, thank you. So what we're going to do now is parents and players that are in attendance here, if you would like to, you can use the hand raise. You can unmute yourself. You can type a question in the chat. We'll kind of just do a little bit of an open floor here. And while people are maybe typing in the chat, I did get a message about somebody asked, what if they're not interested in the school that keeps contacting them? So what should they do if, let's say, one of your schools, like you're contacting them and they're not interested in you? What would be the protocol for that?
I think for us, just super simple. I mean, we get no all the time. Mm-hmm. So don't feel like we're going to take it personally. It is let me know. I mean, that takes that off of both of us. You know, if I'm going to continue to contact you, the thing that drives me nuts is when I don't hear back one way or the other. Just shoot me an easy email, easy text, and just say, you know, thanks so much for your, you know, interest or your contact, but I'm interested in a different major. I'm interested in a larger school. I'm interested in, you know, something closer at home, whatever it is. You can put a reason or you don't have to put a reason, but just acknowledge it. Then I go, perfect. Okay. Check off the list. I won't bother you anymore. Like I said, don't be afraid to tell us no. We hear it, you know, plenty of times. You know, we don't obviously take everybody that we contact. But it is really helpful for us. If you have zero interest, then let us know so that we can, again, stop bothering you and move on and continue to recruit.
Yeah, everything Coach Jones said, just to add on, and it can be hard. I mean, I'm trying to think about myself in 9th grade and 10th grade. Clear, honest communication. You know, I emailed a young woman multiple times and got ghosted, didn't hear anything. And then 3 months later, she wrote back, and it was after her number one school said no. Then all of a sudden she was interested. I said, I'm sorry. If she would have said 3 months ago, hey, coach, Mansfield's not my top choice, you know, right now. If my search doesn't work out, maybe I'll look into it. If she just would have said that, I probably would have given her a chance 3 months later, you know. So just be honest. Again, as Coach Jones says, we hear no all the time. So it's okay.
Great, thank you. All right, parents, players, any questions? Open floor here. If you want to unmute yourself and just go ahead, you can talk or type in the chat. All right, well, I think that'll wrap us up. I want to thank, obviously, Coach Kendra Jones from Washington & Jefferson and Coach John Schaefer from Mansfield University for joining us for our first ever PA Classics Coaches Panel Night. This is recorded, so this will be up on our website. I'm Tim Mail, the recruit coordinator for the club. So if you have questions, you can obviously contact me, or if you have specific questions to either one of their universities or colleges, you were given their contact info, and you can also look them up. I'm sure they'd be willing to shoot you an email or yes. Yeah, go ahead. All right, we have a question here before we wrap up. So.
Yeah, I'm just wondering about highlight film specific for the goalie. My daughter's opinion versus mine, when she watches some of my video that I've taken of her, I think she has this idea that it's going to be like on TV and that I'm going to be zoomed into her and she's going to look awesome. And, you know, after the game, she's like, oh, did you see that one? And did you see that one? But my feeling is that for the goalie, the coaches would like to see the play develop and watch how she reacts and what she's doing before the ball gets there, not just the awesome save. So in terms of how far zoomed in, what kind of things are you looking for, that kind of question. Did you hear me?
Yep. So I think for me, I do think it's very similar to the field player in that I do want to see the buildup. For us, I want to see decision making. Where are you positionally? How are you in terms of your footwork? So, when the ball's 70 yards from goal, I want to see you away from your goal line. But as that ball gets closer, what are you doing to get into the appropriate position? And I should say I was a former goalkeeper, so that's where some of this specific stuff is coming from in terms of understanding that. But are you communicating? Communication for me from a goalkeeping standpoint is super, super important. The more you communicate, the less you have to do in terms of making that poster save, as we like to say. And so I really am looking for, can I see you communicating verbally or with nonverbal cues? Are you organizing people in front of you? Again, where are you positioned? In terms of where the ball is and where you are in your goal. And then ultimately, the save itself. But also then, from a distribution standpoint, same thing. Yes, I see you punt the ball out or I see you distribute, but where does that go? Does it make it to its target? Does it not? Does it, is it 10 yards out versus a 60-yard ball? So I think, just trying to give us as much of a full picture on those things is really important. Because again, it's very similar to the field players that I want to see kind of that broad spectrum of play and not just, the save part of it. Because I can ultimately see that in, just a straight up, not zoomed in or anything like that. We can see the save by the goalkeeper. But it's oftentimes the stuff that's going around that in terms of the play beforehand or what happens afterwards.
Spot on, Coach Jones. I'm laughing because I was a former goalie myself, and so I'm like, yes, she's preaching. It's perfect. 100%. And as Coach Jones said, the distribution, the goalkeeper film I get, and there's no distribution. Not sure about W&J, but I know at Mansfield, we want to play out of the back. If my goalies can't receive a back pass, if they can't play a short goal kick. Might get into the weeds for you field players quick, but my goalies need to be able, to play a 15-yard ball. I want them to play a ping to a wingback or a fullback. We're talking a one skipper, 25, 30 yards. And then if you're under pressure and you got to distribute long, can you distribute long? Do you have an overhand throw on you or a baseball spinner to spin it out with your hands? What's your punts look like? For us, we're trying to go away from the big mile-high punts because my women on the field don't want to head it. So do you have a drop kick that keeps it lower that they can flick on or chest? Do you go European style and hit it sidewinder and drive it that way? The side volley distribution for goalies. So that they're not raining down, but they're more driven. Field players will handle a driven ball more than one falling out of the sky. And as Coach Jones said, where does it go? Because just like you field players, you have a brilliant turn. A midfielder has a brilliant turn, and all we see is the turn, but we don't know where the pass went. I want to see, do you complete the pass at any position? So no, Coach Jones nailed it.
Good question. Does that answer your good answers? Does that answer your question there, Harvey?
Yes, thank you very much.
For sure. For sure. Any other questions here? All right. Well, I just want to thank you on behalf of PA Classics and our teams and players and parents, and really appreciate having both of you on tonight. All right. Thank you so much. All right. Hey, thanks both of you. I really appreciate that.
Thanks, Tim. Nice to meet you, Coach Jones.
Yep, absolutely. I should say you have your field hockey assistant there, Caitlin Hoover, is a former W&J
Yes!
intern. So I came in as an assistant coach with her.
Oh, she's brilliant. I will